some of these hauntings. A lot of these things travel with us back home, and that's kind of our approach to assisting a lot of people, whether it's your business or your your private residential home.
So you guys having experiences at home and stuff like you do, and you've obviously had that for years. Any of your investigations that you've had, have you ever picked up maybe a spirit that had followed you home, and you could say that was that investigation, or that's the one we ran out of there? I mean, have you ever had that experience?
Oh
yeah,
many times.
Yeah, so many times I couldn't count. But one of the most profound was, and we've taken hundreds and hundreds of cases, and in this one particular case, we did deem it as a demonic case. Now, I don't throw that word around loosely. I think that it's too commonly used in the field. Demonic cases are rare, in my personal opinion. We've had a handful out of hundreds that we consider even remotely close to that. But this was a true deal. And we had our reverend with us, and he had done a full cleansing of this home that was having some really dark stuff happening. And we end up leaving, and we come home, and we come home to a scared babysitter, which is my niece. And she's curled up in a ball on the couch, and she runs for the door, grabs her keys, saying, "Bye, Uncle Jay, bye, Aunt Marie." And she leaves, and we're like, "Oh wow, were we late, or what happened?" And I walked into the bedroom, and in my bird cage, everything in the bird cage was upside down. There was water and birdseed all over the floor. And Marie calls, not her niece, but her sister, and asks, "Hey, what's going on? What happened with, with her tonight? Did she call you? She say something went wrong?" And so what pretty much happened was, the same time and hour that my reverend was performing the blessing of the home, she reported that it sounded like the bird cage was being slammed up against the wall in her house, and the bird screaming. Now, the bird wasn't hurt, probably terrified. I mean, it lived many, many, many years after
I can't
that.
believe how long that was.
I know, it lived for a very long time. And that was the beginning of a lot. Flash forward to about a month later, we were revisiting the home because the family had not followed the instructions in which we gave them, and kind of re-invited these things back into the home. So we agreed to go back out there. It was a day that Marie and I both had off of work. And throughout the day, we knew we were going to go do this investigation once again, and we were bringing out clergy and everything. And Marie progressively got sick and more weak and ill. So as it got later in the evening, I started loading up the car with all of the equipment that we used to use. We used to use tons of stuff. I mean, it's a very small amount that we use now. But I was just loading up the car. Each time I went back up to the house to get in the house to open the door was locked. So I thought Marie was upset because I was still intending on going on this investigation. So I figured she was locking the door behind me to let me know she was really, really fired up. So I tried to communicate with her. She wasn't really responding. She had passed out. I was like, this is weird, So I come back in the house. Everything's packed. And I'm getting last few things, car keys or something off the counter in my bathroom or my bedroom. And as I'm walking out, I have a box full of business cards, about 200 cards. I see them literally lift up off my desk and get thrown across the room right in front of me. Now, it's been very few times I've seen levitation in the paranormal field, but every time I've seen it, I scream like a little girl. And, I lost it, to be completely honest with you. And I couldn't believe that I literally saw this, because that's just, no matter how many times you've seen levitation, when you see it, I mean, that's a remarkable thing. It scares the heck out of you. So I'm like, oh, my God. So I walk out of the room. I call my reverend. I say, "Hey, man," I said, "I think this thing's in my house. It ain't even at the client's house. I think this thing has followed me home, and it's messing with me and my family." And about that time, he had told me to, he's like, "Why don't you do this with your house and pray this way or do whatever?" And as I was starting to do that, and as he instructed, I started hearing an electronic voice traveling all the way around the house, and it sounded almost like an obelisk, but it was just like chasing around the roof of our house, and it sounded like bowling balls hitting our roof. And it was this male voice just talking, just having a conversation. It was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Freaked me out. and I'm praying this prayer that he told me to pray. I had this jar of holy water he gave me in my hand, and Marie, out of nowhere, she jumps up and she's screaming at me as I say Jesus. She's like talking in a male voice and saying, Jesus, who is this Jesus? And I'm like, what the heck, like scared the heck out of me. And she's screaming about God and Jesus and all this stuff. She's not herself. Her eyes have just darkened. Her teeth, she's snarling at me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like my wife's going to kill me. And I don't know what's going on, and I can't control this. So I literally, and I've seen my reverend do stuff with holy water before, and I didn't know what to do, so I panicked, and I laugh about it now, but I dumped a whole jar of holy water over her head. And when I did, she collapsed to the bed. She collapsed to the bed, and within 2 seconds, she woke up screaming, "Why am I wet? Why am I wet?" And she didn't even know what had happened.
Oh, no, I wasn't really cared about how I was wet. It was just my hair was wet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But she had no recollection. She had no recollection of what had just happened. So it was a really eye-opening experience for us as paranormal investigators, and how these things do travel, back home. And that, some of these things know before you're even coming. They're very intelligent. Some of these spirits, entities, or things that we deal with in the field, that they're not all just residual energies and stuff. Some of these things are highly intelligent, and they know you're coming before you even get there. And it was just a huge wake-up call for me. And it kind of changed our direction and how we dealt with things, because I would notice when I would talk with this particular client, terrible things would happen in my life immediately. Like my kids being, would completely, something would happen, this crazy situation, to the point to where I started backing up off cases. Marie actually stepped out of the field for a little bit, because we were like, what the heck, how can we help people if when we try to help people, these darker forces are literally trying to destroy our own personal lives? What happened with this particular case, and what I can say happily now, is that it literally changed several dozen family members' lives. An old pastor who used to be a pastor, who walked away from the church and his faith, regained his faith in God and the church. He rejoined the church. He started his own ministry again. It affected hundreds of people. So these dark forces knew our presence was going to do something for the better good, and they wanted nothing more than to take us out and scare us away. So Marie and I decided from that moment on that we weren't going to cower. We weren't going to take a step back. We were just going to go full bore. And the only protection we say that we use is our faith in God. We don't use crystals, protections, really prayers or anything like that. We're legitimately going in there knowing in faith that God will watch over us and protect us and our family as we do this. Now, that doesn't mean that Marie doesn't get jacked up, scratched, or I don't get scratched or cut up or beat up or, have attachments. But it's definitely, it's been the way that we do it. And I don't recommend it for everybody, but it works for us. And it's been pretty much what I say is our trials and tribulations have become our clients' testimonies. So we'll bear that problem. So if that means that we end up inheriting, unfortunately, an attachment, we'll work through it, to the point to where we don't have to worry about it anymore, and it will help alleviate their own problems. But that's just our approach. That's what we do.
So, well, that's good. I mean, I myself have had a little incident with some attachments as well. So I don't know that I would have handled it exactly as well as you, but I probably would have screamed too when my business cards levitated off the desk. That would have been over for me.
Yeah, it's
right
something else, man. I tell you what, that levitation gets me every single time. I don't know what it is. It's a sense of excitement, fear, and just disbelief, I think, all at one time.
Yeah, how can this be happening? It just no physical way.
And I'm a very logical thinker. I did 10 years law enforcement. And with that, I'm very skeptical in everything I hear, and I do that with intent because I really want to find truth and I want to find understanding for the clients that we serve. I'm not ever out there trying to disprove their haunting, because then, like we always say, like these clients, they reach out to you, right? And we as investigators, we show up, we investigate for 4, 6, maybe 8 hours. We set up all this gear, and then we don't catch anything. Well, then you go to the client, you say, hey, I didn't catch anything. Well, some of these people have lived in these same houses, or they've worked in these buildings for 20, 30 years, and these things only happen every once in a while. But when you do finally get that, that holy grail, And I thought that first time when I caught it, where I was like, oh, this is a smoking gun, and I showed it to the client, I said, here's the photo of the apparition, here's the audio recording, and here's the experience on video when it all happened. And I thought that was going to solve the problem. And I remember submitting it, and they said, oh, wow, you did, you got it. And then they were like, okay, well, now what? And I thought to myself, wow, that's a really good freaking question. So, I mean, so Marie and I have now become the now what is what we say. So we spend a lot of time doing consultations and just talking with people, oftentimes not even investigating locations, but really just sitting down, speaking with them, talking to them about things that they can do to lower or lessen or eliminate the activity in their homes. Very simple things. We've had a really good run at it. So, but we've made really good friends. So, I mean, for example, our client coordinator that deals with all of our cases and talks to all these people all over the place, who gets really slammed with a lot of these cases that we have coming through. She's our previous client. I mean, she was someone that she needed help, and we reached out and helped her. And from there, we sparked a really good friendship and a bond. And now for the past, 4 or 5 years now, she's been our case coordinator. So it just definitely interesting. So when you call Cops Crew and you ask to talk with us, you're going to be talking to one of our previous clients. So not intentional. It just kind of happened that way.
We had the same thing with our team. We actually done an investigation of Pauley Jail in Union Springs, Alabama. And we were treating it as an event, and we were trying to bring some notoriety to the town of Union Springs and the museum. So we did a tag along situation, and one of the tag alongs that came along was one of our previous clients. And so she now she had a negative interest. I mean, her house was probably our first. I won't call it demonic, but it was really close, and it was really super negative. And but her idea of the thing is, well, I live with paranormal activity every day. Why not, go to a place where it's different? Maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
So she's kind of an investigator in training, and she helps out with a lot of other things that our group does. So I think that's awesome. When a client feels like they can trust you guys enough that they're just going to come and join your team and help you guys out because you've helped them. And yeah, that's awesome. So you guys do tours as well?
Yeah, we host several public ghost hunts in the state of Arizona. So like right now we have one coming up in a couple weeks at the Sun Studio of Arizona. It's a production, video, audio recording studio that recently started having like some crazy paranormal phenomenon happening with alarms going off, motion sensors, shadows, the feeling of being watched, all these different things. And they called us in to investigate, and we've had so many people reach out to us that wanted to join the hunt with us, and go in cold case. So we kind of opened this one up to the public. We've never been in to investigate it, but we're inviting the public out there with us to join us on the first investigation of the location, to kind of give them an inside look at what it is that we're really doing, how we do it, and how we determine what a haunting is and whatnot. But that's the one we have coming up. We have several coming in Arizona throughout the course of the year. Been working a lot with Vulture City Mines. Vulture City was featured on Travel Channel, Ghost Adventures, and it's a great location. We have full exclusivity to the town. We're doing a lot of great things out there, a lot of investigations. We're bringing the public out to a few of those investigations. Or actually, in a couple months, we're doing an overnight camp out. So you can literally lock down in the entire ghost town for the evening and be able to stay in some of the old buildings, the Bordello, the kitchen house. What's the other one, Marie? Bunkhouse.
Bunkhouse.
The
Wells Fargo.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So it's like entire town, and we're doing that out there. We just like to bring, when we do events, we like to bring them with as much authenticity as we possibly can. We want people to see like what it's all about. We don't do tours and structure them as a tour.